So I'm April Peterson. I'm with Classroom to Career Hub. I lead the team that does counseling and advising within the career setting there. And I'm really happy to be here with all of you because I was a first-gen student. So I certainly have some experiences with the process that you're going through, given that there were no supports for first-gen students when I was going to school. So when you all said, who did an internship? I said, well, I just barely got one in. I could not afford to do an internship for no money. And that was what internships typically were, was, well, let's just call it volunteer labor. We had other words for it while we were there. I really had to hustle and like borrow cars and do things to be able to get to a paid internship, and did finally get one done. But it was, it was maybe not the rich opportunity that some of the unpaid internships were, but it was a place that had trouble finding an intern. So I was willing to drive out there and made it happen. And it was a good experience for me. I actually wound up with probably more responsibility and a wider range of things to do because I hustled and actually drove 20 miles to get to it, which was, yeah, that was what it took to be able to get an internship where they could pay me for my time, because if I had to give up my part-time job to be able to do it, I just couldn't, I couldn't make ends meet. And I know lots of students are in that situation. So I'm really glad that internships more often than not are either paid, or we also have an earn and learn program within MSU Denver. I would look at the website, look at the deadlines. If you're planning an internship in the future, and you might be interning, say, at education, healthcare, nonprofits, where they may not be able to pay. And that, that happens even within universities. Some of our interns here at MSU Denver are not paid because there's no money to do that. You want to find out about opportunities to, get some kind of stipend or a scholarship or something to help you with that. So anybody want to unmute and ask any questions while I'm getting set up?
We have one already, and it says, I have a question. Is the internship only for seniors, or anyone can get it?
Internships are often done, and more often than not, done in your either your junior or senior year. Some internships you can get into in a sophomore year, although that's unusual. So I would say it's pretty much a junior senior activity. By then you have most of your coursework under your belt. You've started in on your coursework for your major. You're kind of ready to try out some of what you've learned there in the real world and add to it with some of that experience. So internships are so it's certainly not just for seniors. I would say more students do it their junior year than senior year. The important thing I would say is, make my slides advance here, is that you really want to start early. So I know some of you are thinking about internships, or you wouldn't be here, or you may be sitting the fence on whether to do an internship. Bless you. There are many.
Oh, sorry.
There are many benefits to doing an internship. The main one is that you're gaining experience. So what I find in Classroom to Career Hub, where we're working with students who are finding internships and then they're going on and graduating and finding jobs, the students who have done an internship, and you don't have to do just one, sometimes people do one or more, and or people will find like a part-time job within the field or industry that they're interested in, get their foot in the door in the setting. Getting some experience there is another way to, it may not be called an internship, but may function in the same way, where you're getting that experience. You're meeting people in the field, you're doing, some of the things that would be foundational to getting started in that field. those are all ways to get that experience. So our goal is for all students to have some experience on their resume before graduating. And experience comes in lots of different flavors. There's your coursework and your class projects. There's your campus involvement in activities and clubs. There's community activities that you're doing. There's also jobs and internships. This is also a great place if you are thinking about, you want to have a little bit of a focus about the things that you would like to do, because an employer is looking for someone who's really looking at deepening their understanding of an industry or an occupation through that internship. But if you're looking at two maybe closely related areas within your major or within your field, an internship may be a great way to get your toes in the water and say, yes, I really want to do this. Between information meetings and someday there will be job shadowing again, which is harder to do during the pandemic. But you really want to kind of get into the middle of the situation and see how it feels to be there. Does it feel like it's the right kind of fit for you? Do you feel energized by this? Knowing that an internship is like any other job where there's going to be a, every time you're in a new job, you got to learn a new system and you're meeting new people and you're kind of getting your feet under you. And it's maybe that much harder as an intern. But you want to think about what is being done. And by the time you get done with your internship, do you feel like that's something that you want to pursue, or you might explore some related interests? So it can be a good exploratory possibility. The other thing is that sometimes internships are required for your academic program, which we certainly want to assist you with that possibility. Your internship for credit is something that you can arrange, and I'll show you where the forms are. I'm not in charge of approving your internships. There is somebody, Kira Castle, works on the paperwork and getting all the approvals done. But it is an agreement between your academic program and the employer. One of the benefits of an academic internship is that the employer agrees to abide by the learning objectives of your academic department, which might not include making coffee and going for donuts, or, the gopher work. It may not, it's probably not going to include, making copies all day long. And I think some of those are the horror stories that you sometimes hear about internships. Yeah, you're going to do a certain amount of grunt work just because that's, a lot of entry-level jobs have that. But I think, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, but just consider that your internship for credit ensures that you have some learning objectives. So we'll talk about where the forms are and where that information is. Some other programs don't require an internship, but may highly recommend that you do that. It can be helpful for you if you're also if you're planning on graduate school after you graduate. Sometimes an internship is really helpful within that process as well. So getting started with this, you really want to clarify your own goals. Think about your interests, your personality. What do you really want to do? A lot of students aren't aware of all the career possibilities for their major. So you want to come talk to us at Career Services. We also have pages for many of the majors on our website that kind of get into the skills that employers love about university graduates or students getting close to graduation, the skills that are particular to your major that employers have told us that they, or have told in surveys that they value. But then there's always more career possibilities for each major than students realize. So I think sometimes getting in touch with your own personality and interests and looking at what some of those options are, you may find that there are options you hadn't considered that could be really good for you. We can talk with you about some of those and the possibilities for finding employers. Think about your priorities, what's most important for you. So I know some of you need to do an internship for credit, and I heard a comment, any internship that will take me. And I know that it's been hard during the pandemic. Spring was terrible. We had some internships that actually got pulled out from under people, even though they had been offered, which was pretty traumatic. But I think employers are starting to figure out, as we are winding through the pandemic, that they have made working remotely work. Internships can also be done remotely. I myself have interns that I have yet to meet in person, even though we've been working together several months, because it's all remote. And it's working great. There are these possibilities. Think about what's important for you with your timing for this, what you want to get out of it. Consider your own priorities. Knowing that you also want to be, flexible around your possibilities. There may be multiple ways to reach your career goals that you hadn't thought about. So what do you want to learn? Who do you want to meet? Getting a sense about the kinds of organizations that might provide you with some of those contacts and new information that would be helpful. And then think about the best time for an internship. Consider what your coursework, other work responsibilities you have, family and household responsibilities. It's one more pin to juggle. And for me, I had, when I was an undergraduate, I had family responsibilities, and I had, work for money that I was doing. And then to try to add that in there and keep up the grades, you do want to think about how you pace yourself, how many credits you sign up for. You really want to set yourself up for success, knowing that it's going to be a lot of work. And you want to marshal your own resources and the resources of those close to you. Get a team of supporters behind you with this, including your team of supporters includes staff and programs here on campus. So First Gen is a wonderful program for supporting students. There's a lot of help that's available. And of course, talk to a career advisor about laying the groundwork. We're happy to help. And we've opened up the possibility for you to request an appointment online through Careerlink. So getting an appointment is easier than ever. And of course, if it's an internship for credit, you want to consider the learning objectives for your major, and we'll talk about where you find those. And I'm talking fast. Are there questions in the chat or any that people want to talk about? Okay. I'm very interruptible, so.
I don't see any as of now.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that students ask me is, when should I start looking for an internship? For example, this last spring, I had a couple of students that approached me in January before, a week or two before school started, needing a spring internship for credit that would start by the time school started. And we were, less than 2 weeks out. Between finding the internship, interviewing, applying and interviewing and getting the offer and getting your paperwork approved with the university, well, I shouldn't say it's impossible, because we did have a student who figured out, and I think they made an exception for a late enrollment for him, but he did wind up getting a 4-credit internship pushed through, and it just didn't start till February. But it was quite a process. Don't do that to yourselves. Plan this a semester in advance. So if you're thinking about a summer internship, this is the perfect time to be looking. If you're thinking about fall, this is not too early to be thinking about laying the groundwork, finding employers. Some employers are already looking at fall interns now, so don't feel like it's too early. So start with Careerlink. Careerlink is the go-to place for students to really connect with jobs and internships that are posted there. A lot of internships that students do aren't actually posted anywhere. Many of them are simply arranged through the employer themselves. So the employer database is the gold mine in Careerlink. There's a couple thousand active employers that are in there. They're mostly Front Range, Colorado. So it's a great place to look. Searching for your intern, you want to get started with that, get familiar with it, search for your internship, and of course connect in with the career staff, because we can talk you through some other resources as well. If you're not finding quite what you need in Careerlink, we can help you refine that search. And you want to, you know, connect to employers on their own website. Sometimes employers don't post their internships externally to schools. Sometimes they put it on their own website, and they look for students who are motivated enough to go to their webpage. So keep that in mind. Even if you see an employer on Careerlink and it looks like they're not posting anything, follow, you know, and it says, you know, link to their site, don't ignore that. They really do want you to do that. So I have pulled up a little corner of the entry page for Careerlink. I don't know how many of you have been in Careerlink. If we were in a room, I could, you know, look out and you could wave at me if you've been in Careerlink. I'm going to assume some of you have and some of you haven't. If you haven't been in Careerlink, you start with Student Hub, which you go to for lots of things. Scroll to the bottom. Right above commencement is Careerlink, which makes people think they have to be graduating to use it, which is not true. You really want to be in there from freshman year on, because there's lots of good things in there for everybody. So you're going to see a menu along the side here, and this is a little bit light the way it transferred. So we've got jobs and internships here. You can post a resume, which can make some of your applications easier. Of course, you can sign up for events. As you're looking for jobs and internships, don't forget that this employer tab is down here to look for employers as well. Some of our events include employer visits to campus, where we have a job fair in April. We've had some smaller, more specialized fairs. They've all been virtual because we're not physically on campus. I don't know when we're going to pack people into a room again. But that is not stopping employers from recruiting. So we do have employers that also have information sessions for students. It's just all virtual. And you find that and you connect to those events through Careerlink. The other thing that you want to look at if you're considering an internship for credit is, well, there's two things. The resources down here includes the majors sheets for each major for internship requirements. So it tells you the class that you're going to sign up for. It tells you the departmental contact within your major for that. It will tell you a contact person for C2 Hub that is an employer relations contact, a person who connects with employers. And it'll give you some of the basics of the learning objectives so that you have a sense of what you're looking for. And then internship credit for credit paperwork is all under this tab. So your application for, you want to first get the internship and get a letter of offer from an employer. Then you can fill out the internship for credit application. You're attaching your letter from the employer, and then the internship staff will talk you through the rest of the paperwork because they'll be getting approvals from your department as well. So they'll keep you in the loop. Typically, these approvals can take a few weeks. I'd say probably 3-4 weeks is not unusual depending upon the situation. So you can all check in, but also exercise a little patience, but not too much. Yeah.
I think there's a question someone had for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. They didn't put the question in the chat. I don't know if they wanted to unmute.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I just had a quick question. How hard is it to find a paid internship?
Well, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, that is, are kind of, it's something that most large employers in the US belong to. So there's many thousands of employers in there. And then colleges and universities have actually put together some guidelines about this. The idea is that if the company is making money, they should be paying you for the internship. So if you're looking at an intern, I don't know what your major is.
I'm sorry, ma'am. My major is exercise science.
Exercise science, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Can I speak really quick?
Mhm.
I'm actually exercise science as well. So last semester when I was looking for a bunch of internships, I would say your best luck is probably the Earn and Learn program, because even like the research internships. So I looked at research internships, I looked at cardiac rehab, I looked at physical therapy, none of them are paid. Even like the corporate wellness internships, like nothing is paid in exercise science. I know engineering is a great like paid internship one, but from experience, exercise science is not a great, it's a good, I love it. That's why I majored in it, but it's not exactly somewhere you expect to get paid for your internship.
That makes sense. Do you feel like that's more across the board in science fields in general because the field is pretty saturated? Or do you feel like it's just specifically like exercise science?
I would say anything that's going to be in, well, so, yeah, I wouldn't say it's completely across the board. I rarely, and I agree with Irma, I have rarely heard of anybody getting a paid internship in exercise science. It's very unusual. It's only because maybe the organization had a grant, so they had some way to at least nominally compensate interns for that. But yes, I would definitely look at Earn and Learn as a possibility there. So we assume, if you're working for a for-profit organization, which you may not be interning for-profit with exercise science, that's where, yes, business, engineering, those kinds of areas certainly do pay, and nonprofit do not typically, which is why I'm glad we have that program. We would prefer that people not volunteer for a for-profit company. I mean, if it's a company that's doing well in the stock market and their shareholders are making profits, they should be paying their interns.
I feel like most hospitals make a lot of money, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay, yeah. Healthcare finances are complicated, so yeah, I think you see that can sometimes be a mixed bag there, but yeah, there aren't that many paid internships in your field.
There's another, oh, go ahead, April.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
Sorry,
I was just going to repeat. Earn and Learn, the contact for Earn and Learn is Alyssa Marks.
Yeah, there was a student that said if you could explain how networking and participating in professional development and or professional associations can help students secure a good job after graduation.
Yes, I am actually going to touch on some of that in the next couple of slides, but I will I'll certainly talk about that.
Thank you.
So get ready for your search. So you want to get a resume put together. Before you start to network, before you start to search, develop a resume that you might be tweaking from one application to another, but get something put together that highlights your education, your skills, the experience you have. Keep in mind that the skills and experience you have can be very transferable to what you're already doing. So work with us on that. We'll help you to strengthen that resume. You'll be putting together tailored cover letters. So be prepared you aren't just going to write one cover letter and it's going to go to everybody. We want to help you to tailor that. Some of you may be developing a portfolio with examples of your work that might be visual in nature. So keep in mind that that's another thing you might be developing depending on your major. We want to help you to practice interviewing. So those are all things that we can do to help you get ready. Networking, from our last question, absolutely. We do recommend that students do networking. LinkedIn is a great place to get started. And many professional groups have a LinkedIn profile, but if you're part of a professional group, maybe a student chapter or something, or your student organizations that are connected to your major are a great place to network. Get started with your classmates, your faculty, guest speakers that come in for your group. Connecting with the field is what we want to help you to do. So professional associations is actually kind of my drumbeat with students because I know that was what turned things around for me as a student, was getting connected with professional associations. I would have never found my internship experience without that. I would have to say, since grad school, every job I've gotten I've learned about through a professional association. So I would say the more connected you are, the better, because it means that you know more people, you get more leads, and you're also building professional relationships with people. So this isn't just about you getting a job, it's about you connecting with your colleagues for the future, because you're going to be working with people, you're going to be on committees with them, you're going to know them for a long time. People that I met when I finished graduate school, I still know. I'm still in contact with people I networked with as an undergraduate. So it's a long relationship business of really developing your professional network. LinkedIn makes it so much easier because you can really keep track of people with a good LinkedIn account. So we do encourage students to develop a good profile. We can help you with that. Start to network with your school and your community. Sometimes students look at the professional dues for professional associations and feel like that's a lot of money. And most organizations have a student discount. So make sure that you look for that. This year, I've learned that a lot of professional associations are really discounting professional dues because they want people to stay connected. So this might be a good time to join. The other thing that you could do when you're in LinkedIn is to look for discussion groups. There are thousands of discussion groups on every topic you can imagine, well, professional topics. And I would say getting into a group that has a good number of people in it, they're talking about something that you're interested in, you're seeing the posts, you kind of get your thumb on the pulse with what's going on professionally. This is a great place to also reach out to people because you share that group affiliation within LinkedIn. You could be following target employers. That's, if there's an employer you're really interested in, you can look them up and see who's on LinkedIn from that employer. So we can talk to you about really using LinkedIn to make some good connections. Questions about this one?
Quick question, April. Do you recommend students stick mainly to LinkedIn? Because I know it probably depends on the industry, but in higher ed, there are several Facebook groups that are pretty useful, and people post jobs and internships and just interesting articles and things like that.
That can be very helpful, and there's nothing wrong with having more than one Facebook. We're a little cautious with Facebook, or at least I am in C2 Hub, and I guess some of that is because I have experienced situations where students maybe didn't have their security or their content thought through very well, and employers saw things on their Facebook that were problematic to the employer. I have actually had students crying in my office because they got a job offer with rescinded because of their Facebook content. So please don't let that happen to you. So yeah, I would say be very careful. You might even have a professional Facebook and then your personal Facebook that's got your securities up and it's for you and your friends and family, and you know, where your personal content goes there.
I would recommend having two. I have a professional Facebook that's pretty bare bones, and then I have a private one that's got the security on it. And I will say that, you know, where my wife works, they check people out. They look at their social media accounts and everything when they're hiring. So that's good to put that caution out there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think some people, even like the tactic that they use is not using their name at all. So like that they can't find them at all. And maybe even avoid pictures, at least like profile pictures or any visible, because sometimes you can change the settings from private. But yeah, a lot of people, I know, like I have several Facebook friends that don't have their own names, and I always forget. And I'm like, oh, who's this?
I have a question.
Yes.
There's this one day where this guy offered me a internship, and he asked for my resume, and I gave him my resume, and it was for, I'm a computer science student. I'm a junior. And he later asked me when I can meet, and then he sent me how much I want to get paid.
Oh, okay.
Then, but then it's like from it's like I don't know, it was weird because he would how much do you want to show on your W-2? That was strange.
Yes.
And so, and then he called me, and then I was skeptical and I hang up. And then he sent me another email saying, oh, this is the position, da, 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 da. And then when I tried to call to see if maybe I was mistaken, perhaps it was a real thing. And then right away he would answer or call me back right away. That's weird because companies usually do that. I don't know.
Your instincts served you well there, Jose. I would be very cautious about anybody who's too pushy about the job offer, because generally you're really having to sell yourself for anything that's legitimate. Yeah, set up a time to talk with one of us so we can help you to research that company, find out more about it if you're still interested. But you know, also, you know, you want to expand your search and think about a wide range of organizations. I should also mention that some of you, I mean, we talk about LinkedIn because it covers all kinds of professions, but if you're in a research-based major, ResearchGate is another one that sometimes students get involved with. Once you get to where you're writing papers that you might be presenting at undergraduate research conference, or you're presenting somewhere, ResearchGate is a great one for sciences, technical sciences, higher education areas, social sciences as well. But LinkedIn's a good place to get started. And it's just professional information. So there's no concern about, you know, blending personal and professional.
April, we did have another hand. Sully, do you want to go ahead and unmute?
Yeah, I was just simply going to say on the conversation about employers and social media. I know this has been something that's really prevalent in our day of age. And I want to state that, like, in certain states, they do protect the employee from specific employers, like, you know, trying to discriminate you from potential job opportunities and or job loss regarding whatever you post on social media. So in the state, I did post in the chat that in the state of Colorado, you do have a couple of rights as of 2013 that do protect you from this type of like job discrimination, if you want to call it that way. So I mean, that does not excuse you as an individual to continue to, like, you know, post things that probably would be controversial and or like dangerous or threatening, you know, just to still be aware of that, like if it's, you know, but that's just something to keep in mind. Not every state follows the same rules. So if you plan to moving out of state for a job opportunity, to really double check the type of rights and laws that you're protected by, and or that your rights can be, you know, taken away. Just something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's something that you want to consider with, I mean, there's a certain amount of federal protection with that as well. So there's a lot that you want to think about with your interviews, which is probably a whole other topic. We'll have an interview program in April, and I would recommend that you come to that. We're talking about virtual platforms, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time on illegal questions. I mean, there are certain kinds of personal questions that can lead to discrimination that we want to make sure that students are avoiding. So that's those are really good points. Thank you so much, Sally. I hope I got your name right.
Sully, yes.
Sally, okay. So, believe it or not, most of the internships that students do at MSU Denver actually aren't posted anywhere. They are internships that the students themselves proposed to the employer. So you can be reaching out to employers. You make your contacts with Careerlink, LinkedIn, ResearchGate, Facebook, professional Facebook. But ask for an information meeting when you're able to make those contacts. Connect with the employer through their webpage. Maybe they have an internship program on their webpage that you could submit a proposal to. So I would say talk to somebody in the organization if possible, and or gather as much information as you can. So you want to have your resume, and then your cover letter is going to be more like a pitch of, here's some of the things I would love to learn more about and participate in the success of your organization while I'm learning more about the field. And that written proposal kind of looks like usually looks like a cover letter, but we can help you to write that letter to propose what you'd like to do for an internship. These kinds of ideas often appeal, especially if you've really researched the company, looked at what they're doing, and you're trying to appeal to your company is working in this area, and here's some things I'd like to help with. So keep in mind that those proposals often lead to some great opportunities where you could work with a manager in an organization and get some good experience. So if you're doing this actually, before I get into credit, are there more questions about internship proposals before I run out of time here?
I don't see any in the chat at the moment.
Okay, great. Well, again, start with Careerlink. If you've gotten your internship and you're looking for approval for academic credit, go to Careerlink and go to that site for resources. Make sure that you're clear about who you're contacting, and then you can go into the Internship for Credit tab, and the form to apply for Internship for Credit is right there online. You fill it in online, you submit it right there, and that helps you to get started. Then you want to also talk to your academic advisor and let them know that you've applied. get your letter of offer and make sure that all of those are ready to upload into that approval process. That way you've got all the paperwork that you need. And then any other forms that are needed by either by your program or by the employer can be managed. You know, we've got staff that track that stuff to make sure that it goes through. So for DACA and undocumented students, I know that internships can be a challenge sometimes. Often I talk with DACA students that are where the employers seem to be confused. They're acting like they need to, you know, authorize a work visa or a H-1B or something for the student. As a DACA student, you have authorization, so there's really nothing that is a problem here. Sometimes people will ask you legal questions like, where are you from? Or where were you born? Or, you know, if somebody asks you where you're from, you can just say, I'm from MSU Denver. That's where I'm going to school. You really don't need to get into that. What they can legally ask is, do you have authorization to work in, you know, are you legally able to work in the United States, which is true. So you have your authorization, and it may be helpful for the employer to, you know, be informed about that there's no paperwork on their end that needs to happen. For undocumented students, you know, undocumented students still do internships. Unfortunately, getting paid is something that can't happen. But volunteering, education, nonprofit, healthcare, you can certainly do internships for experience and credit that may be helping, and hopefully anybody out there who's undocumented, you're applying for DACA, and you know, I think these kinds of activities certainly help with that application process. So consider your personal strengths. I find that first-year student or first-generation students, we've all had to be self-starters. There hasn't been anybody, you know, pulling the strings or doing stuff for us. We've kind of had to figure this out. So I think employers also understand that first gens are self-starters, often very enthusiastic and curious, really trying to learn more about the world of work in a way that maybe the family doesn't have that much of a connection to. So that, you know, curiosity and optimism and enthusiasm is part of what you take with you. And that's the energy employers are looking for. They know that college students don't have a lot of experience, but they come with that energy. As a first gen student, you have had to be persistent. You've had to hang in there with classes that weren't that much fun, and challenges with enrollment and other kinds of issues along the way. So you know how to be persistent. And that's very helpful, particularly in what's probably going to be, you know, a tougher job market for another year or so at least. So we're under no illusions that it's difficult, although students are finding internships and jobs out there, absolutely. I have learned that every time I meet somebody new, learn something different, have a new opportunity, even if I feel like it's not a good opportunity for me, but I might, you know, pass the tip along to somebody else, that being grateful for new opportunities is another thing that employers often see in first generation students, where, you know, we take fewer things for granted, I think, as a group. You, of course, have your unique strengths that you want to tap into, and we would like to help you to do that, because you can be expressing that in your resume, your interview, and in the process itself. Questions?
I don't think there are any at the moment.
So some of you are already in an internship, and sometimes internships are hard because you're starting something new, you're learning something from scratch. It's sort of like being in a new job, except that only more so, I think, when you're in an internship. And this is where advocating for yourself, I think, can be really helpful. If you have particular learning objectives, I think you can lean back on those to be able to talk about those. But if you're keeping a positive attitude and letting people know that you want to learn all that you can, and that you're interested in being helpful, that you're asking questions, lots of questions, and really get to know people. I think once people get to know you a little bit more, then they may say, oh, can you help with this? Or, hey, let me show you how this works. Developing those relationships are going to help you. And one of the things that I learned and relearned with internships, both undergraduate and graduate, is you can't wait for direction often. You have to offer to take initiative. You don't want to necessarily jump into something if it's a process that is regulated or controlled in some way. But to be able to, talk to your supervisor and say, hey, I see that you're doing this particular activity or process. I'd love to help with this. And here's some ideas I have, but is there something I can do? Offer to take that initiative, I think is really, really helpful. We also, I noticed a couple of days ago, just very timely for this process, one of the other resources we look at for internships is Vault, which I'll talk about in a bit, but they have a blog on internships. I think it's called Internship Survival Guide Chapter 1 or something, that's on the Vault site. So it's a short article, but it kind of gives you some good tips for getting started with connecting well with your internship. So we have lots of programs coming up. All of these are in Careerlink. We have a program tomorrow specifically about using your strengths for job search success. If you sign up for this, I'll be looking at the signups there. We're actually having people complete a fairly brief, it's not too long, a strengths-based online assessment to kind of get you started with getting in touch with your own personal strengths, because I think this is what really builds resilience and helps you to connect with the job search process and new work, responsibilities and working on new platforms, because the world of work is changing quite a lot. We've got an interviewing skills workshop coming up. We've got a Start Smart salary negotiation workshop, because college students never ask for what they should for money. We want you to know how to do that. We also have the virtual JCPenney suit up coming up. That's a 3-day event. We used to do that at the JCPenney's used to be called Stapleton, help me. Central Park, yes, the Central Park JCPenney's. And so that particular Penny's is still doing an online shopping activity. So register through Careerlink. That way you're getting a deep discount on professional attire. Could be a great way to get that interview outfit. Of course, we have our spring and job and internship fair. So that's another place to connect with employers. And that's going to be a wide range of employers and industries there. So Careerlink, it's the place to go. So meeting with employers, jobs and internships, making appointments. Vault is on our website. Do go to Vault from our website. Don't go to Vault. Well, you can go to vault.com, but if you go through our website, you're going to see company rankings, industry profiles, internship postings, blogs and articles. There's lots of good stuff on Vault. They've been really persistent about keeping up with how the world of work is changing during the pandemic. So it's a really good resource. Remember that you can get your resume reviewed. You can make an appointment with one of us. You can do a quick review on VMOC. So again, vmoc.com/MSU Denver. So go to the MSU Denver site, because you can do up to 10 PDFs of your resume you can upload those PDFs for a quick review to polish up that resume, have something, check your spelling, grammar, word uses. And so it's a really good quick tool. So contact us for all of those things. And I'm hopelessly over time, but just let me know when we're
You're okay, April.
okay.
I wanted to go, I think I was messaging one of the students because they mentioned earlier that they're currently in an internship that they are having a hard time at. So I don't want to call you out, but if you do want to ask questions, you can.
Sure. So basically, I got a physical therapy internship. I'm also exercise science as another student. But I honestly, like, if I'm being honest, I didn't completely want to do physical therapy. What I wanted to do was research, because I want to go to medical school, and that's just a great resume builder, if I'm being honest. But the University of Colorado, where we do most of our research internships in the exercise science department, was not taking interns because of COVID. So then I wanted to do cardiac rehab because it's a lot of like clinical patient work, which also looks well for going to medical school. And then there was only like 2 hospitals taking interns, and they were already filled up. So I have physical therapy, and I think one of the things you touched on was that like a lot of people need like more initiative, because I know like at my physical therapy office, I don't have any like real responsibilities. So I find it really hard because I have to be there almost full time. Like, especially if it's an 8-hour day, like what am I supposed to do for 8 hours if you don't give me any like real like responsibilities, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my difficulty has been during my internship. And maybe it's because I don't want to be a physical therapist, or maybe it's because I've been honest with them when they ask, like, if I want to be a physical therapist. I tell them, no, I don't. It's definitely something I could do with my degree. I was like, but since looking into it, I much rather would want to be a doctor. So I don't know if there's any advice maybe you can think of.
Yeah, and I think you want to have good communication with your coworkers and with your supervisor about that. You know, look around and you know, maybe there are things that are going on there that you would be very happy to help with. There could be some good options there to help you to gain more experience. Everything you learn, even if it feels less related, it's going to help you down the road. So having, you know, that clinical observation that you're doing now in physical therapy, I think is going to help you with your research eventually. But yeah, I would have a, you know, wait till you can do it with a smile on your face, and you can, just, you know, even if you don't want to, I think if you can let them know that even if you don't necessarily want to be a DPT down the road someday, that you really value what they do and would like to learn more and appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. But yeah, the days are long if you don't have stuff to do.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'll take
Sure.
that into consideration, of course. So hopefully that gets better.
Exactly.
I know one of my internships was kind of like that, and I took a little while to observe like the needs of the office, and then I just tried to be like, oh, I could do this, or I could join you for that. So I don't know if that helps you either, but that's something I tried to do.
I think it's maybe like something I just do need to take more initiative. I did have like a recent talk with my intern supervisor at the university, and then I actually just tested positive for COVID, so I'm out for a little bit. But I did send a couple emails to my intern supervisor as well, and I think he was concerned with my lack of hours, but also like I just got COVID, so I'm not gonna go in. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. Maybe I'll just like look around the clinic too and like get to know more people. And I think physical therapists and doctors aren't super different. They still have a lot of patient interaction that I can learn from and stuff.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Well, if there aren't other questions, I think I need to yield the floor here to Sam, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you. So I'm going to put in the chat my email address.
Thank you so much, April. The last thing that I know I would like to say, I'm not sure if Scott or Jackie have anything else, is just thank you, April. And if you can, use the little smiley face reaction to clap or put a thumbs up or put in the chat a thank you to April. And